All right, so I'll kick things off here. The topic is eating animals is unnecessary. And yeah, I can just dive right into it. Um, Vegetarianism and veganism has stemmed back to ancient times. People have been surviving from plant-based diets for thousands of years. Um, and in today's times, we have so many other options that we can eat. There's basically a vegan or vegetarian option of every single food group: burritos, sandwiches, burgers. I had spaghetti and meatless meatballs the other night. Pizza. I mean, there's limitless vegan options that give you all the nutrients you need. Um, I guess one of the big ones is B12. A lot of people argue about that. Obviously, we used to get our B12 from streams and eating veggies that hadn't been washed in chlorine water, and so we used to get our B12 naturally. Animals don't make B12; they get their B12 from eating grass and things like that. But actually, 80% of antibiotics are given to livestock, and so most of the B12 that you're consuming in animal products was actually supplemented in the feed. And so when it comes down to it, the facts are is that we live a healthy lifestyle from plant-based diets. I used to eat meat, so I know both sides firsthand. I've been vegetarian for a few years, and I recently went vegan about a year ago, and I've never felt better. I surviving well. My B12 levels are perfect. I take a B12 pill probably about once or twice a week, and my levels are perfect. So the facts are we don't need animal products, or animals to survive. And so why do we do it? It's the only thing I'm left with is for taste and is for profits. We breed animals and we murder them for profits. We use cows for their milk. We take the baby cow from the mother, and the baby cow goes for veal, and because the baby cow would drink all of the milk, and then we use the milk from the mother when it's unnecessary. 80% of people, 75 to 80% of humans are actually lactose intolerant. And so it's obvious that we're not intended to eat secretions from another mammal. That's pretty obvious. We can't even digest it. And so my time's wrapping up, but that's a good.
All right, thanks for that. So we agreed ahead of time we're going to pass the mic back and forth a little bit to ask each other questions for a little bit here. So my first question is that you stated that there are human societies that lived without eating meat. You'd agree that it's a scientific fact that you don't need to eat meat to survive, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we. Oh, am I good now? Okay. Yeah, that is correct. We've been thriving from a vegan diet since ancient times, and vegetarianism. I mean, I'm proof that we can obviously survive and thrive without any animal products whatsoever. I'm perfectly healthy and perfect levels, so that is a fact. We don't need animal products to survive. Oh, and then do I pass the mic? Okay.
Okay, right. So the issue that we're debating isn't for physical survivability, right? Because there's no debate there. We both agree that it's not necessary to survive as a human. So necessary in the context of this debate really has to do with, like, for a society to function and like be the best society that can it be, is it necessary to eat meat to have the best society possible? Would you agree that that's sort of more like a better interpretation of the topic than just that it's necessary to survive?
I yeah, we can agree on that. Yeah. Yep, that's the overall topic. Yeah.
Okay, then that's it. I'm gonna just take a second to prepare here, and then I'll get started on my rebuttal.
Oh, is it back on me? Am I supposed to say something? No. Okay, I'll pass it over. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So, right, there's an issue in front of us for today is whether or not the society would be better off if we completely restricted the eating of meat and made it so that everyone, like my opponent, was vegan or at the very least vegetarian. Um, because we're not talking about, banning dairy products, right? We're just talking about eating animal meat. And my argument today is that it's necessary to eat meat to have the best society because meat is fortunately or unfortunately, depending on if you like to eat meat and you think it's good to eat animals, meat is a part of human society. On almost every culture that I'm aware of eats meat and consumes it in some fashion. And though it might idealistically be good to, as an individual, convert to veganism or vegetarianism, broad overarching prohibition on a societal level tends to not be a good way to enact social change. And there are lots of examples of this: prohibition on illicit and controlled substances, prohibition on alcohol in the United States in the 1920s are a couple examples of times when the government tried to prevent people on a national scale from consuming a product that they personally really enjoyed. And what you have in that case is you have people who go outside the law and they continue to consume it anyways. You also have a lot of upset in the society where we see that, people were jailed in the drug wars for consuming something that they felt like. I mean, is that what we're going to start doing? Are we going to start imprisoning people that eat meat? Right? So what are we talking about here? So I'll pass it back to my opponent now. I think he's got something to say.
Thanks so much. I don't think we should. I think it will come to that someday. I think that slavery used to be legal. Women's rights used to be held. But obviously now we're like, no, slavery is not right. So I think that's way future. I think I do see murdering animals as being wrong in the future. I think that is way future. But I think this is the biggest, one of the biggest global movements right now, veganism. It's grown by like 600%. So it's happening. Like the government doesn't need to get involved really. It's happening. I think in the future, I might see the government getting involved and putting restrictions, but they're already putting restriction on like say hunting and things like that. But I hope that answers your question. I think that the movement is happening. People are awakening, and they're like, if I don't need to kill an animal, if I don't need to murder it for survival, then why am I doing this? And that's kind of why I woke up. And so I think the change is happening. And yeah, I'm gonna pass the mic.
Well, it sounds like we might have gotten to the end of this debate a lot sooner than the time limit would have dictated. But I think we could probably agree on each other's points here almost entirely. I certainly agree with Jay's opening points that humans can survive and be perfectly healthy without consuming any animal products, but certainly without consuming meat. And I also agree that it's possible that one day in the future we may consider animal sovereignty to be on par with human sovereignty. But at the same time, Jay agrees with me that we couldn't feasibly prohibit the consumption of animal products on a national or even probably a local scale at any time in the near future. So is it necessary as an individual to consume meat? Absolutely not. But is it necessary for us as a society to today? Probably is.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think, a lot of people think, can we do it overnight? We can't do it overnight, man. People aren't going to stop eating burgers overnight. I saw a statistic recently that said 56 Americans are now choosing plant-based proteins, which I thought was interesting that now they're seeing the majority are going for it. You can't really make people change, but I think if you supply them with the correct information, like me, I was blinded. I thought I needed meat. I was like that's what people told me. That's what's in the food pyramid. Actually, it was Sweden or another country in Europe actually changed their food pyramid, and they took dairy and meat out of it. They did, and so they're teaching that in schools. They're teaching that everywhere. And so I think with education, is the best way to get through to people. It's not just to be like that annoying vegan person being like, all up in someone's meal and disrupting them. I think that it just comes with education, and that's where I changed. And I also think of animals differently. I think I respect my cats and I respect dogs and certain animals, but why was I not respecting chickens, cows, pigs, and other animals? Speciesism is what it's called, and I thought humans were like above here, and everything else was just kind of. But when it comes down to it, animals want to live their life. They don't want their life to be robbed from them for someone to consume their body parts. They want to give their milk to their babies. I mean, that's what it's works. A human wants to give its milk to its babies. And so the more I thought about living beings as on the same uh, all living beings on the same playing field, I think like I've further understood that animals aren't this toy. They're not a product. They're not just something that we're raping animals like into existence. We're actually like artificially inseminating animals into existence, and then we're using them their entire lives, and then we're murdering them. It's just like it's crazy, and it's mostly for profits. We're making huge profits off of this industry. And yeah, that's all I have to say right now.
There's no doubt about it. The way that animals are treated is incredibly inhumane. That's literally the definition of the phrase. Inhumane means not human. We treat them like property, and ultimately, as a judge, your choice is to say whether or not you think eating animals is necessary. Now, we already agreed right off the bat that it's not in the interpretation of what is scientifically necessary. Both my opponent and I agree that as an individual, I can survive and be perfectly healthy without eating any animal products. So the only question then is, as a society, can we reasonably prohibit eating animal products, or is it an unfortunate necessity? Do we need to keep on doing it? And in the short run, the answer is yes. There isn't a feasible way to prohibit it, and as a result of that, unfortunately, it is necessary. At the end of the day, I agree with everything that my opponent said. The only issue is that in order for us to have the best society that we can have, we have to continue eating meat. It's necessary, and that'll be my final word.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think the transition, like anything, is gonna come slow but steady. But actually, it's crazy. It's like exploding. Like it is exploding. Especially if you talk to vegans that have been vegan for 10 years, they say that in the last even 2 years is it's grown so much. And something I will want to say on the eco-friendly environmental side, plants yield 10 times more protein than meat. A meat-based diet requires 18 times more land than a vegan diet. And so I think sustainability wise, as there's more people on the planet, I think it's crucial that we start to adapt to more plant-based diet because of the environmental aspects as well. But yeah, so me and my opponent, this was awesome. I had a blast. This was really cool, and I liked how respectful we were, and I was kind of hoping for a little more of a debate, but I'm hoping to get like a strong meat eater that's like, I need meat, like I'm a man, like don't you take away my bacon, so I can, I've had a few of those debates before, but Tom is obviously very intelligent, and he's done his research, and I'm wondering, Tom, are you a meat eater?
So yes, I am a meat eater, and to speak to my own personal choice, if there was a bill that was proposed that said we're gonna, implement really stringent regulations on the meat industry, so that all animals have to be like grass fed and treated really humanely, and there are inspectors, and if you're found to be in violation, your farm is not going to be able to sell its meat, and so everybody's just getting this like really strict compliance. But the result of that, right, is that beef becomes much more scarce, and if you want a hamburger, it's way more expensive. um with the end goal of eventually, getting to the point where animal rights are on par with human rights. I may be compelled to vote for legislation that would enact that on a social level, because I think that that would probably be a good direction for society to go. However, as an individual, I find that my own well-being is improved when I eat beef because I enjoy it. It's just a taste, it's a preference thing. It's like if you ask me if I would give up ever going to see comedy or action movies, right? It's just like just rom-coms forever. It's like, well, it's like, yes, I would survive. It's not necessary for me to see action movies, right? But my well-being is well served by me pursuing my taste. And so if we could say that it's just action movies, right? You can't make them without treating animals inhumanely. It's like, okay, well then maybe give up action movies, right? But it's like, if the action movies are being made anyway, I'm going to go see them, right? Even if they're treating animals. So it's like the same things, right? If the animals are going to be treated inhumanely, I'm not going to take down the meat industry by abstaining myself from eating a hamburger. So I'm going to eat hamburgers. Although, as a person, I do generally consider myself, and so that's where how I resolve that cognitive dissonance, right? Between, like you said, my girlfriend has a cat, and I love the cat, right? And I don't think that it's incredibly anthropocentric to think that just because an animal is like cute and cuddly, that's any more valuable than a chicken, right? Just because it's like I wouldn't want to have one as a pet. So, animal rights is a complex issue. That's how I deal with my own dissonance on the subject. And again, thanks to Jay for being a very respectful and enjoyable, intelligent, handsome, good-looking opponent. And take care, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.
Hey, just one more thing. I don't want to get too into it. I don't want to get back into it, but I think what it comes down to is I think a lot of people think humane is they toss that word around, and I think a lot of animals are treated humanely, like grass-fed and organic, and they're pet during the day, and that's great. But I think maybe we disagree, maybe we agree on this. There's no way to humanely kill an animal that wants to live. And yeah, okay. So, it's like, even if it's the most painful, painless killing, say they didn't even feel it, that animal's been robbed of its life. And so, a lot of people say like it's been humanely killed or it's been humanely treated, but when it gets to your plate, there's nothing humane about slitting something's throat. There's nothing humane about even shooting it in the head, and if it felt it for 5 seconds or if it was zapped. So um, I think if we really like if people understood like the humane aspect of the death part, that's something that I really misunderstood. I was like, oh, they just die quickly or something. And I'm just like, oh, they must want to die. Or, I didn't really think about it. But I'm like, wait a second, like turkeys, they're killed at like on average, like at a few months or something. But they actually live up to like 7 to 10 years. Um, but for sandwich meat and things like that, their lifespans shorten tremendously. So yeah, I'll pass my.
Yep, nail on the head, right? If you wouldn't do it to a human, you can't do it to an animal. Inhumane, right? So you're not killing people to eat them before they want to die. Doing it to animals, the same thing. Anyway, thanks, Jay. I'm gonna hit the end debate button. Good talking with you, man.